Greetings traders and welcome back to another survival guide. Chris here bringing you some more information. Today we are going to be covering the Eurex. This is the Eurex Exchange, of course. Many people have heard of the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ, but not so much the Eurex. So we're going to cover the history of the Eurex as well as what products are offered by the Eurex as well as its characteristics and all that good stuff. So at the end of this, you'll know exactly what the Eurex is. And you should know because it is something that is available to you if you are planning on taking the Gauntlet Mini. The Eurex is one of your available options. So I will see you guys on the other side. Let's dive on into that information and get on going. As the population of the world grows and the demand for different styles of trading assets and locations and product availability rise, there will be exchanges that pop up in order to fill that need. The Eurex represents one of those needs. It is something that has become a very powerful component of the exchanges that are respected worldwide, like the NYSE and like the NASDAQ. The Eurex Exchange is definitely one of the largest derivatives markets in the world. The exchange's primary focus is on Europe-based derivatives, but it also provides international exposure as well. The Eurex is owned by the Deutsche Börse AG, which is operated by Eurex Frankfurt AG and Eurex Zürich AG. The derivatives exchange is situated in Eschborn, Germany, and a little bit closer there to more well-known Frankfurt, which is one of Europe's top financial centers. Although the exchange retains its European focus, it does provide electronic access to traders from over 700 locations worldwide. The Eurex also features different types of instruments, from all kinds of futures on the DAX index to futures and options on debt instruments, stocks, indices, the list goes on and on. Aside from the trades facilitation aspect of the Eurex also provides contract settlements. In that sense, it is considered one of the world's most innovative and efficient electronic networks around currently. All transactions settled on the exchange are cleared by Eurex Clearing. Through its Eurex repo arm, the exchange also provides repo and securities lending services. According to the Eurex information that's available on their site, the exchange also operates the most liquid fixed income markets in the world, accompanied by low-cost electronic access. The Eurex became what it is today after the European financial industry, as well as the futures trading market in particular, went through a shift of powers starting somewhere around the 1990s. Around that time, the London Financial Futures Exchange began to lose ground to the Frankfurt-based Deutsche Börse in trading the Bund, which is the German government bond futures. The DTB was among the first electronic exchanges worldwide, and by that time, it had already gained some popularity and earned investors' trust. As a natural step in its progress, there then came a merger with the Swiss Options and Financial Futures Exchange, otherwise known as SOFIX. The Eurex Exchange was born in 1998 after joint efforts between the DTB and SOFIX's parent companies, the Deutsche Börse and the SIX Swiss Exchange. While both companies held equal voting rights, the German group had 85% of the share capital and as such got the majority say. This cooperation continued to exist until 2012 when the Deutsche Börse AG required the remaining shares from their Swiss partners, and at that time the Deutsche Börse is now the sole owner of the leading pan-European derivatives exchange, which we're referring to as the Eurex. The exchange is considered one of the most innovative markets worldwide, as it was among the first to replace the traditional open outcry method and go fully electronic. The Eurex operates through a proprietary infrastructure that's called T7. This system was developed in 2013 by the Deutsche Börse Group and is today used by various other derivatives and cash markets, including Powernext, the European Energy Exchange, the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, the Vienna Stock Exchange, and more. Continuing on from here, the Eurex Group's organizational structure consists of three entities. We have the Eurex Frankfurt AG, the Eurex Clearing AG, and the Eurex repo. We've already covered a big part of the Eurex Frankfurt AG's business, so let's talk about the other two. Eurex Clearing AG offers central counterparty services for all instruments that are traded on the Eurex Exchange. The Eurex Repo and the FWB, which is the Frankfurter Wertpapirbörse, and my German is absolutely terrible, so the short version is going to be the FWB, also known as the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, the Xetra and Floor. The Eurex Repo, on the other hand, provides international financing in the secured money market business. The companies are run by separate executive and management boards. And in July of 2020, this year, Michael Peters was appointed as the CEO of the Eurex Frankfurt AG, and he currently still resides in this position. The products offered by the Eurex grows by the day, but currently, as of the time of this video production, which is in September of 2020, these are the available products that are offered on the Eurex Exchange site. This generalization of the product offerings doesn't in fact reveal the entire spectrum of instruments that the Eurex offers, but instead the majority popular picks if we just sum it up in a small image. If we were to take the equity derivatives, for example, over here on the right side, we can see that they're separated into 5 subcategories. When we go to the website, that is, you'll find that it's equity options, single stock futures, stock tracking futures, equity total return futures, and related security spread futures. The case is similar with all the other asset classes as well, where they kind of sum up the idea of what they have instead of listing it as a never-ending list, but you can find all this information on the Eurex site as well. They offer somewhere around 1,700 futures and 1,000 different options instruments currently. So the list is obviously quite extensive, and there's a good chance that your favorite futures and options are probably there, but we will be covering that, so don't worry. Although the Eurex has been known primarily for its focus on European instruments, it is worth noting that the exchange also offers exposure to the leading global benchmarks like the S&P 500, the DJ Global Titans 50, and the list goes on and on from there as well. What all this comes to show is that the Eurex is one of the exchanges with the most diverse and rich derivative products offerings list, which, thanks to the easy-to-navigate categorization process that they've kind of implemented here, it's easy to really kind of find out if what you want is there, or to explore what something it might be that interests you that you didn't even realize you were interested in diving into. To get a better understanding of the futures product offering line that the Eurex is offering, we can do this by taking a look at the instruments by grouping like we were discussing. It makes it easy to see what we have. And we have interest rate futures as our first and foremost to discuss. The Eurex offers 20 interest rate futures in 4 categories, including fixed income derivatives, money market derivatives, Euro swap futures, and bond index futures. Investors can take advantage of everything from 2 to 30-year futures, German and international contracts in different currencies. So a lot of selection there. Then we work our way into the equity futures. Understandably, this category is the most complete with close to 1,200 offerings. This is what, after all, the Eurex likes to brag about. The equity futures are separated in several subcategories, including single stock futures, single stock tracking futures, equity total return futures, and related security spread, otherwise known as RSS futures. The futures cover all types of European and international companies here as well. Then we have the equity index futures. The category features over 200 equity index products from leading exchanges worldwide, with a primary focus on the European ones. Investors can trade equity index futures on the DAX, the SMI, the MSCI, the Vienna Stock Exchange, and the list just continues to climb from there. Then we have the dividend futures. The category of dividend futures includes over 200 single stock dividend futures and more than 20 equity index dividend derivatives. This grants investors exposure to dividend-paying companies or a selection of companies by sector, which could be insurance, oil, gas, telecommunication, automobiles, banks, and more, obviously. Then we have the FX futures, which are personally one of my favorite, the Forex futures. I love Forex futures. The FX futures category includes instruments on the most popular popular currency pairs like the euro dollar, the euro yen, the euro pound, the New Zealand dollar, the dollar franc, the dollar yen, etc., etc. The list continues going as well. Then we have the ETF and ETC futures. The ETF and ETC futures category on Eurex consist of just a few instruments with primary exposure on European indices. There are also futures on physical gold, WTI crude oil, and indice tracking companies listed on the Shanghai Stock Exchange and the Shenzhen Stock Exchange as well. The futures track index instruments from iShares, WisdomTree, and Xetra Gold as well. That is definitely worth noting. And then we have the commodity futures. And this category includes over 20 commodity futures offerings by Bloomberg. The products range from agriculture, energy, grains, livestock, industrial metals, petroleum, and precious metals. While perhaps not as favored as the Eurex futures category, the Eurex Exchange options category have plenty of things to talk about as well. And basically, these subcategories are going to look quite similar to the categories offered for the futures side. The first is going to be interest rate options. These are 15 interest rate options that are put into this category by the Eurex. They cover fixed income derivatives and money market derivatives. The investor can choose from options on futures like the Euribor, the Eurobond, the Eurobobl, the Euro BTP, etc., etc. The list goes on and on. Then we have equity options, and the equity options category is the biggest one on the Eurex with over 800 offerings. And once again, it's no surprise that the equity option is going to be the biggest category because that is, after all, what once again Eurex focused on was those options, those equities, those derivatives. But more than 80% of all options contracts listed on the exchange are in this category. Then we have the equity index options. The equity index options are only second to the equity options themselves on the Eurex. And once again, this is just going to be the index offerings of those equity choices. Then we have the dividend options. In the dividend category, just feature single option products in the face of the Euro Stocks 50 index dividend options and an equity index dividend derivative if those are things that interest you. Then we have the FX options selection, which is going to be some of the most popular widely traded currencies, just like the futures formation, just options variation, so don't need to spend too much time there. The volatility options are something interesting, and understandably, due to the nature of the volatility-related instruments, there isn't an abundance of these on the Eurex. So while they do offer volatility options, the exchange lists just a single volatility instrument, options contracts that they offer on the V stocks futures. Then we have the ETF and ETC options. Investors interested in the ETF and ETC options will appreciate this category for a wide variety of offerings on the Eurex. Even though it may not be the largest in the world, it is extremely respectable. There are three subcategories here. There's equity index derivatives, there are fixed income derivatives, and then exchange traded commodities derivative options, all of the ETF variation. And these are offered from iShares, WisdomTree, and MSCI. And then finally, we have the commodities options. And this, once again, is going to feature single options instruments here. And that's going to be the Bloomberg commodity options. And that's all we have, the OCCO for this category. There are a lot of choices on the Eurex, but as far as commodity options, there just isn't a whole lot. It reflects the performance of 22 different commodities, and it's calculated based on the futures prices from various exchanges worldwide. When choosing to trade on an exchange, it's also important to be aware of their services and resources that they are providing their investors. And one of the ones that the Eurex offers is education, which in my opinion is probably one of the most important services if you are a growing trader. No matter whether you're a trader or a clearing employee or a private investor, it doesn't matter. The Capital Markets Academy, as they call it at Eurex, it has a lot to offer. It serves the educational needs of the Deutsche Börse group. They provide different types of resources, from seminars and courses to digital learning opportunities. They provide all kinds of different studies to make sure you are making informed decisions in your investing, and that's a pretty cool thing to offer. Then they also have a data and statistics settings or setup that's worth talking about. The Eurex offers investors access to daily and monthly statistics, and this can be very valuable to you as an investor because it includes essential bits of information regarding regarding the number of traded contracts on the exchange, as well as the daily volume for the month, the year, the open interest data, tick data, and more. This is all stuff that can be very valuable to the right trader. The market statistics cover all assets traded on Eurex and are available both as a web version and as a downloadable CSV format for those of you that love playing with your files. But as we move along, there's also informative content, and what I mean by this is the Eurex team puts together a diverse mix of different publications all the time. It might be webcasts, it might be video lectures, it might be periodic newsletters, circulars, or readiness news flashes, but they're always coming out with different newsletters and pieces of information to share with you to make sure that you're aware of important market events so you never get blindsided, and that's something nice of them as well. So in conclusion, the Eurex Exchange is a respectable and formidable opponent to any other derivatives exchange that you might be searching for. They have a very wide product selection, and I strongly encourage that you browse the website on your own or check out our blog post about the Eurex Exchange to see if there's anything or any products that you're interested in trading that they might be offering that your current exchange does not offer. At the end of the day, it's entirely up to you to decide what you value as a trader, and whatever it is you do, just make a calculated decision, and chances are you'll probably be making the right decision. But until next time, folks, thank you for joining me again. Please click that like and subscribe button down below, and I will see you again real soon, folks. Cheers, everyone. Over and out.